Dongsu opened his eyes slowly. His head hurt badly, like someone had hit him with a hammer. The last thing he remembered was being on his mining ship, Soul's Pride, near the asteroid belt. They were collecting rare metals when bright lights filled the sky. Then everything went black. Now he was somewhere else completely. The room around him was strange. The walls looked like they were made of crystal, but they glowed with a soft blue light. The floor felt smooth under his hands almost, like glass. He tried to sit up, but his body felt heavy and weak. "Where am I?" he said out loud, but his voice sounded different. It echoed in a way that made him feel uncomfortable. As his eyes got used to the light, Dongsu saw that he was inside some kind of cage or cell. The crystal walls went up high above his head, and he could not see any door. Outside the walls, he could see more rooms like his, stretching far into the distance. Some had other creatures in them, but they did not look human. Suddenly, the wall in front of him became clear like a window. On the other side stood the strangest thing Dongsu had ever seen. It was tall, maybe 3 meters high, with a body that looked like a giant insect. Its head had many eyes, all looking at him at once. Long, thin arms ended in hands with too many fingers. When it moved, Dongsu could hear a clicking sound, like bones hitting together. The creature stared at him for a long time. Dongsu stared back, trying not to show how scared he felt. His heart was beating fast, but he made himself stay calm. He had been a captain for 10 years, and captains did not panic. Then something amazing happened. Words appeared in his mind, but not in his own voice. It was like someone else was thinking inside his head. "You are awake, human specimen," the voice said. "I am Krixtal, Chief Science Officer of the Vextar Empire. You will listen and understand." Dongsu touched his head. "How are you talking to me? What did you do to my brain?" "We placed a neural translator in your mind while you slept," Krixtal answered. "All captured species receive them. It allows communication between different life forms." "Captured?" Dongsu stood up quickly, anger filling his chest. "You kidnapped me! Where is my crew? Where is my ship?" The alien's many eyes blinked slowly. "Your primitive vessel was destroyed. Your crew members who survived are being processed in other facilities. You should be grateful we saved your life." "Grateful?" Dongsu moved closer to the crystal wall. "You attacked us. We were just mining asteroids. We never hurt anyone." "Your species' emotions are interesting," Krixtal said, almost like he was talking to himself. "Most captured beings accept their fate quickly. The conditioning process usually makes them calm and ready to work." "What conditioning? What are you talking about?" Krixtal moved closer to the wall. When he spoke, Dongsu could feel something trying to push into his mind, like fingers trying to get inside his thoughts. "You will now receive standard prisoner conditioning," the alien said. "Do not resist. It will make your new life easier." Dongsu felt the pushing in his mind get stronger. It was like someone was trying to tell him what to think and feel. The mental pressure wanted him to stop being angry, to accept what was happening, to become quiet and obedient. But something was wrong. The conditioning was not working. Instead of becoming calm, Dongsu became more angry. Instead of accepting his situation, he wanted to fight even more. The alien's mental control slid off his thoughts like water off a rock. "No," Dongsu said simply. "I will not accept this. Let me go." Krixtal stepped back, his eyes blinking rapidly. "Impossible. The conditioning works on all species. Your brain patterns should be changing to accept your new status." "Well, they're not," Dong-su said. He could still feel the alien trying to control his mind, but it felt weak and easy to ignore. "Maybe you're not as smart as you think." The alien made more clicking sounds, but these were different. They sounded worried. "You will be taken to the labor camps on Vextar Prime," Krixtal said. "There you will work in the mines until your body fails. This is the fate of all inferior species." "Inferior?" Dong-su laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. "You had to attack sleeping miners to catch us. You need machines to control minds because you cannot win with words. Who is really inferior here?" Krixtal's clicking became very fast and loud. More aliens appeared outside the cell, all looking at Dong-su with their many eyes. They seemed confused and upset. "The humans' resistance to conditioning is unprecedented," one of them said. "Should we increase the neural pressure?" "No," Krixtal replied. "Too much pressure could damage the specimen. We need it alive for the labor camps." As they talked, Dong-su listened carefully. He learned that the Vextar had captured many different species from across the galaxy. All of them had been successfully conditioned to be obedient workers. Humans were supposed to be just another weak species to add to their collection, but something about human minds was different. The conditioning that worked on every other species had no effect on him at all. "Transport the human to processing." "Center 7, Krixtal ordered. "Perhaps the other humans will show us why this one is defective." "Other humans?" Dong-su pressed against the crystal wall. "How many of us did you take?" But the aliens were already walking away. The wall became solid again, blocking his view. Dong-su sat down on the smooth floor and tried to think. These aliens, the Vextar, had technology far beyond anything humans had ever built. They could travel between stars, capture ships easily, and control minds. But for some reason, their mind control did not work on him. He touched the place on his head where he thought the translator was hidden. The device let him understand alien speech, but it was also supposed to make him obedient. The fact that it failed meant something important about humans that even they did not understand yet. A few hours later, the crystal wall opened like a door. 3 Vextar guards with energy weapons pointed at him entered the cell. "Move, human," one of them said through the neural link. "Time for transport." Dong-su stood up slowly. He could fight, but there were 3 of them with advanced weapons. Better to wait and learn more about his situation. "Where are you taking me?" he asked. "To join your species mates," the guard replied. "Perhaps they can explain your unusual mental resistance." As they led him through long hallways filled with more crystal cells, Dong-su saw many different alien prisoners. All of them sat quietly, staring at nothing, like their minds were empty. The conditioning had worked perfectly on them, but it had not worked on him. And if there were other humans, maybe it had not worked on them either. For the first time since waking up, Dong-su smiled. The Vextar thought they had captured weak prey. They had no idea what humans were really capable of when pushed into a corner. The transport ship was dark and cold. Dong-su sat with his hands tied behind his back, surrounded by Vextar guards. Through a small window, he could see stars moving past as they traveled to their destination. He had never seen stars move so fast. The alien technology was incredible, but he tried not to think about how far from Earth he was now. After what felt like many hours, the ship began to slow down. Through the window, Dong-su saw a huge planet covered in metal and lights. Cities stretched across entire continents, connected by bridges that reached into the sky. This was Vextar Prime, the center of their empire. "Impressive, is it not?" one of the guards said. "This world has been the capital of our empire for 50,000 of your years. Your entire species did not even exist when we built our first cities." Dong-su did not answer. He was thinking about what 50,000 years meant. Humans had only been using metal tools for a few thousand years. These aliens had been conquering the galaxy since before humans learned to farm. The ship landed in a huge metal building. Guards pushed Dong-su out and marched him through corridors filled with alien workers. Everyone they passed stopped to stare at him. Most had never seen a human before. They brought him to a large room with many cages. But these were not the crystal cells from the ship. These were simple metal bars, like a prison from old Earth movies. Inside the cages, Dong-su saw something that made his heart jump with hope. Humans. Real humans. "Dong-su," a woman's voice called out. "Over here." He looked toward the voice and saw a familiar face. Boram, an engineer from the mining station on Europa. She was in a cage with several other people he recognized. The guards opened an empty cage and pushed Dong-su inside. As soon as they left, Boram moved to the bars between their cages. "How many of us are here?" Dong-su asked quietly. "About 40 that I have seen," Boram answered. "They have been bringing humans here for weeks. The weird thing is their mind control does not work on any of us. You tried to resist too?" "We all did. And it failed every time." Boram pointed to a man sitting alone in the corner of her cage. "That is Tai-ho. He used to plan military operations. He thinks he knows why we are different from other species." Tai-ho looked up when he heard his name. He was older than Dong-su, with gray hair and tired eyes. But when he spoke, his voice was strong and clear. "The Vextar expect all species to think in predictable ways," Tai-ho explained. "Either they work together like a hive, sharing all thoughts, or they work alone, caring only for themselves. But humans do something else." "What do you mean?" Dong-su asked. "We can choose. We can work together when we want to, but we can also think for ourselves. We can change our minds, make surprising decisions, be creative. The Vextar conditioning is designed for predictable brains. Human brains are not predictable." In the cage next to Tai-ho, a young woman stood up. She had been listening to everything they said. "I am Yoonji," she said. "I study alien life forms. I have been watching the guards, and Tai-ho is right. They expect us to act in patterns. When we do not, they become confused." "What kind of patterns?" Dong-su wanted to understand. "Simple ones," Yoonji replied. "Fight or give up. Obey or rebel. Work together or work alone. They cannot understand that humans can do both at the same time." As they talked, more humans gathered near the bars to listen. Dong-su recognized some faces from the mining stations, others from the transport ships that carried supplies between Earth and the outer planets. "There is something else," Boram said quietly. "I have been studying their technology when the guards are not watching. Their machines are designed around mathematical patterns. Everything they build expects logical, predictable responses." She pointed to a control panel on the wall near their cages. "That panel controls the locks on our cages. It expects anyone who touches it to have a calm, logical mind state. If someone with chaotic emotions touches it, the system does not know how to respond." "Chaotic emotions?" Dong-su thought about this. "You mean like anger, fear, hope?" "Exactly. The Vextar do not feel emotions the way we do. They share thoughts in their hive mind, so individual feelings get smoothed out. They cannot understand how one person can feel many different things at the same time. A commotion at the far end of the room interrupted their conversation. Guards were bringing in a new prisoner, a young man who was struggling and shouting. They threw him into an empty cage and left quickly. The young man sat on the floor, breathing hard. His hands were shaking with anger and fear. "I am Wu Jin," he said to the others. "They took me from a research station near Jupiter. I was just a student, studying asteroid composition." "Welcome to the club," Taeho said sadly. "We are all prisoners. Here!" Wu Jin stood up and walked to the bars of his cage. He was still angry about being captured. Without thinking, he reached out and touched the control panel that Bo-Ram had pointed to earlier. Immediately, the panel began to flash with red lights. Alarms started ringing throughout the building. All the cage doors clicked open at once. The humans stared in shock. "They were free! What did you do?" Bo-Ram asked. Wu Jin looked at his hand, then at the control panel. "I just touched it. I was angry and scared, and I do not know." "Your emotions confused the system," Yoonji said with excitement. "It could not process that level of chaotic input." Guards came running into the room, clicking and chirping in panic. They had weapons, but they seemed confused about what had happened. The cage system was not supposed to fail. "Everyone back in your cages!" the lead guard shouted through the neural translator. "Do not move!" But the humans did not obey. Instead, they looked at each other and began to smile. For the first time since being captured, they had hope. Dong-Su stepped forward. "What if we do not go back?" "You will be punished severely," the guard replied. "You cannot even understand what just happened," Dong-Su said. "Your technology failed because it cannot handle human minds. What makes you think your punishments will work any better?" The guard raised his weapon, but he was hesitating. The Vextar were used to obedient prisoners. They did not know how to handle resistance. Slowly, the humans walked back into their cages, but they left the doors open. It was a small act of defiance, but it meant everything. They were showing the guards that they were choosing to stay, not being forced. As the guards worked to fix the control panel, the humans quietly talked among themselves. They had discovered something important: human emotions, human unpredictability, human choice. These were weapons the Vextar had never faced before. "We need to learn more about their technology," Bo-Ram whispered. "If touching a control panel with strong emotions can break their security, what else can we do?" "We need to be careful," Taeho warned. "They will watch us more closely now." "Good," Dong-Su said. "Let them watch. Let them try to understand us. The more they study humans, the more confused they will become." That night, as the lights dimmed in the prison, the humans began to plan. They did not know exactly what they would do, but they knew one thing for certain. The Vextar had made a mistake when they captured humans. They thought they were getting another predictable species to add to their slave collection. Instead, they had brought chaos into their ordered world, and chaos, as any human knows, can be a very powerful thing. 3 weeks passed in the prison. The humans learned quickly. They watched the guards, studied the alien technology, and most importantly, they planned together. Myung-ho had been a pilot before his capture. He spent hours watching through the small windows, studying how Vextar ships moved through the sky. What he discovered amazed him. They fly in perfect patterns, he told the others during their daily meeting. Every ship follows exact mathematical paths. They never change direction suddenly or do anything unexpected. It is like watching computers fly, not living beings. That makes sense, Yunji replied. Their hive mind probably calculates the most efficient route, and everyone follows it exactly. But what if someone did not follow the pattern? Dongsu asked. What if a ship made crazy moves that made no mathematical sense? Their traffic control systems would not know how to respond, Myung-ho said with a grin. It would be like throwing a rock into a perfectly organized machine. Jin-ae, who had worked in communications on the mining stations, had been studying something else. She discovered that the guards communicated with each other through their shared thoughts, but the system had weaknesses. They cannot handle emotional noise, she explained. When humans feel strong emotions near them, it creates static in their mental network. They lose connection with each other for a few seconds. How do you know this? Boram asked. Yesterday, when Wu Jin had that nightmare and woke up screaming, did you see how the guards reacted? They all stopped moving at the same time and touched, their heads like they were in pain. The humans had indeed noticed this. Whenever one of them felt very strong emotions, anger, fear, sadness, even joy, the nearby Vextar guards seemed to become confused and disoriented. So human emotions are like weapons against their communication system, Dongsu said. What else have we learned? Hyun Yu, who had worked as an engineer on Europa, had been studying the tools the guards used. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it is designed for users who think logically. When I watched them fix the control panel that Wu Jin broke, I realized something important. What? Their tools can do amazing things, but only if you use them the way they were designed. They have no safety systems for creative use, because they never expect anyone to be creative. Give me an example, Taeho said. That energy welder they used to fix the panel could easily be turned into a weapon if someone modified it in a way the designers never imagined. But the Vextar would never think to do that, because they only use tools for their intended purpose. The conversation was interrupted when new guards entered the prison area. These were different from the usual ones. They wore special equipment on their heads and moved more carefully. Mental shield units, one of them announced. We have been ordered to test new equipment designed to block human emotional interference. The lead guard approached Dongsu's cage. You will be the first test subject. Generate strong emotions while we measure the effectiveness of our shields. Dongsu looked at the alien's new helmet. It was covered in small lights and made a quiet, humming sound. You want me to feel strong emotions? Dongsu asked. Yes. Anger, fear, sadness. The emotions that disrupt our communication networks. Dongsu almost laughed. The Vextar were asking him to help them defend against human emotions. They still did not understand what they were dealing with. Okay, Dongsu said. I will try. But instead of feeling angry or afraid, Dongsu began thinking about home. He remembered Earth's blue skies, the smell of rain, his family's faces. He felt love, hope, and determination. These were not the chaotic emotions the aliens expected. The guard's helmet began flashing rapidly. Sparks flew from the device, and the alien stepped backward in alarm. What are you doing? The guard demanded. The shield is overloading. I am feeling emotions, Dongsu replied calmly. You asked me to. Not those emotions. You are supposed to feel negative emotions. You did not specify, Dongsu said. Humans feel many kinds of emotions. Love can be just as powerful as anger. The guard's helmet exploded in a shower of sparks. The alien fell to his knees, holding his head and making clicking sounds of distress. The other guards tried to help their companion, but their own shields were failing too. The humans in nearby cages had heard what was happening and began thinking about their own positive memories. Love, hope, determination, and joy filled the air around them. "Retreat!" the lead guard shouted. "The humans are using emotional weapons we did not anticipate." As the guards ran from the room, the humans looked at each other in amazement. "Did we just discover that love is a weapon?" Boram asked. "Not a weapon," Yunji corrected. "A power they cannot understand or defend against." That night, the humans made their final plans. They had learned enough about Vextar weaknesses to attempt an escape. "Subin," Dongsu said to a young woman who had been captured from a research station. "Tomorrow, when the guards bring food, we need you to have an emotional breakdown near the main control center." "What kind of breakdown?" Subin asked nervously. "The real kind," Taeho explained gently. "Think about everything you have lost. Your home, your family, your freedom. Let yourself feel the pain you have been hiding." Subin nodded slowly. She understood. It would not be fake emotions. The pain was real, and it was time to use it. While their systems are confused by Subin's emotions, the rest of us will move, Dongsu continued. "Myungho, you head for the ship bays. Hyunwoo, grab whatever tools you can carry. Everyone else, we stay together and fight our way out." "Fight with what?" someone asked. "They have energy weapons." "We fight with the only weapons we have," Dongsu replied. "Our minds, our emotions, and our ability to do things that make no sense to them." The next day, their plan began. Subin walked slowly toward the main control center, carrying an empty food tray. As she got closer to the complex alien machinery, she stopped trying to be strong. She let herself remember everything she had lost. When the Vextar captured her, the pain hit her like a wave. She thought about her little brother, who would never know what happened to her. She thought about the research she had been doing to help sick children on Earth. She thought about all the dreams that would never come true. Subin collapsed near the control center, crying with genuine anguish. Her emotional pain was so intense, so purely human, that it overwhelmed every Vextar communication device within 50 meters. Alarms began ringing throughout the facility. Guards stumbled around, unable to coordinate with each other. Computer systems crashed as they tried to process emotional input they were never designed to handle. In the chaos, cage doors opened randomly. Security barriers failed. The perfectly ordered Vextar system became a mess of confusion and panic. "Now!" Dongsu shouted. The humans poured out of their cages. They did not run in logical patterns. They split up, regrouped, changed directions, randomly, and helped each other in ways that made no tactical sense to observers. Hyunwoo grabbed a maintenance tool and modified it in seconds, turning a simple device into something that could cut through metal. Myungho reached the ship bay and began experimenting with alien controls, flying ships in ways that made Vextar traffic controllers panic. Jin-A found the main communication center and began broadcasting human emotions directly into the Vextar network. Love, anger, hope, fear, and joy mixed together in a chaotic song that no alien mind could understand. As they fought their way toward freedom, the humans demonstrated something the Vextar had never seen before. They sacrificed for each other not because they had to, but because they chose to. Gangmen stayed behind to hold a corridor, fighting 3 guards so others could escape. When a guard asked him why he would choose to die for others, Gangmin smiled. "Because they are worth dying for," he said, "and because I choose to." The concept broke the guard's mind. In a hive society, individuals did not choose to sacrifice themselves for others. They did it because the collective mind told them to. But Gang Min was making a free choice based on love and loyalty. It was a kind of courage the Vextar could not understand or predict. By the end of the day, most of the humans had escaped. They stole ships, freed other alien prisoners, and scattered across the galaxy. But more importantly, they had taught the universe something new. They had shown that chaos, creativity, and choice could defeat even the most advanced technology. The war between humans and the Vextar Empire had begun, and the aliens had no idea what they were really fighting against. 6 months after the escape from Vextar Prime, the galaxy was in chaos. Not the destructive kind of chaos that destroys everything, but the creative kind that changes everything. Dong-Su stood on the bridge of a captured Vextar cruiser, watching, as his fleet prepared for another raid. The ship around him hummed with alien technology, but now it was controlled by human hands and human minds. "Target confirmed," Myung-Ho reported from the pilot's seat. "Vextar mining facility on Kepler 442b. Approximately 2,000 alien prisoners from 12 different species." "Defenses?" Dong-Su asked. "Standard Vextar pattern, predictable patrol routes, logical defensive positions, and automated systems that expect attacks to follow mathematical models." Dong-Su smiled. After months of fighting the Vextar, humans had learned to use their enemies' predictability against them. Every Vextar defense was designed to stop logical attacks. None of them worked against human creativity. "Seung-Hee, are your people ready?" Dong-Su spoke into a communication device. "Ready, Captain," came the reply from another ship. Seung-Hee had been a teacher before the war. Now she led teams that specialized in something completely new, teaching other species how to think like humans. "Remember," Seung-Hee continued, "we are not just freeing prisoners, we are freeing minds. Show them that they can choose their own thoughts." On the mining facility below, the attack began in a way that confused every Vextar tactical computer. Instead of attacking the strongest defenses first, the humans attacked the weakest points. Instead of using their most powerful weapons, they used small tools in creative ways. Instead of following any logical plan, they seemed to make decisions. Randomly, Jaewon and Haiwon, twin siblings who had been captured together, led the ground assault. They moved through the facility like they could read each other's minds, but without any technological connection. The Vextar guards could not understand how two individuals could coordinate so perfectly without sharing thoughts. "How do they communicate without our neural networks?" one confused guard asked another through their hive mind. "Unknown," was the reply. "They appear to use a combination of verbal signals, physical gestures, and some kind of emotional connection we cannot detect." What the aliens could not understand was that the twins had grown up together. They knew each other so well that they could predict each other's actions through love and shared experience, not technology. As the twins fought their way deeper into the facility, they found the prisoner camps, thousands of aliens from many different worlds sat in perfect rows, staring at nothing. The Vextar conditioning had turned them into empty shells, but Seung-Hee and her team had learned how to fix this. "Listen to me," Seung-Hee said to a group of blue-skinned aliens from the Andromeda Galaxy. "You do not have to think what they tell you to think. You can choose your own thoughts." The aliens looked at her with empty eyes. The conditioning ran deep. "I know it is hard," Seung-Hee continued, But try to remember something from before they captured you. Something that made you happy. Something that made you angry. Something that made you feel alive. One of the blue aliens, a female, began to blink rapidly. I remember my child, my daughter. She had the brightest laugh. As the memory came back, the alien's eyes began to clear. The emotional connection to her daughter was something the Vextar conditioning could not erase completely. Yes. Seung-hee encouraged. Hold on to that feeling. Let it grow. Your love for your daughter is stronger than their control. One by one, the prisoners began to wake up. Not just their bodies, but their minds. They remembered who they were before the conditioning. They remembered what they had lost, and they began to feel anger. But Seung-hee taught them something more. Important than anger. You can choose, she told them. You can choose to be angry, or to be hopeful, or to be determined. You can choose to fight, or to run, or to hide. The choice is yours, and no one can take that away from you. This concept, the idea of choice, spread through the prisoner camps like fire. Species that had been slaves for generations suddenly realized they could decide their own fate. Meanwhile, in another part of the galaxy, Yeonsu was making an even more important discovery. Yeonsu had been a quantum physicist before the war. Now she was using her knowledge to understand why human consciousness was so different from other species. Working in a hidden laboratory on a captured research station, she had found something amazing. Dong-su, you need to see this, she said. Over the communication system. What did you find? Dong-su replied from his ship. The answer to why Vextar technology cannot predict human behavior. Our consciousness exists partially outside normal space and time. What does that mean? Most alien species think in ways that follow the laws of physics. Their thoughts are like computer programs, logical, predictable, and limited by the rules of reality, but human consciousness somehow reaches into quantum dimensions where normal rules do not apply. You are saying our thoughts are magic? Not magic. Quantum mechanics. Our brains can access truly random information from quantum fluctuations. This means we can make decisions that are genuinely unpredictable, even to ourselves. This discovery explained everything. Why Vextar conditioning failed on humans. Why their technology could not predict human actions. Why human emotions could crash alien computer systems. Humans were not just creative, they were connected to the fundamental randomness of the universe itself. Send this information to all our teams, Dong-su ordered. If we understand why we are different, we can use it better. The war continued to spread across the galaxy. Wherever humans went, they brought the gift of choice to enslaved species. They taught alien prisoners that they could think their own thoughts, feel their own emotions, and make their own decisions. Sang-hyun, who had been a diplomat before the war, led the most important mission of all. He was building an alliance of free species, not an empire like the Vextar, but a true partnership of equals. We are not trying to conquer anyone, he explained to a gathering of newly freed alien leaders. We are offering friendship to anyone who wants to be free. The Toruk, a species of bird-like aliens, had been Vextar slaves for 3,000 years. Their leader, now free from conditioning, spoke with a voice full of wonder. You humans ask for nothing in return for our freedom? We ask only that you help others find their freedom too, Sang-hyun replied. And that you remember, the choice to be free must be made every day. Freedom is not something you win once and keep forever. It is something you choose, again and again. The alliance grew quickly. Species after species joined the fight against the Vextar Empire. But they were not just fighting against slavery, they were fighting for something new. They were fighting for a galaxy where every intelligent being could choose their own path. The Vextar tried to adapt. They built new weapons designed to fight against unpredictable enemies. They created new strategies that tried to account for human randomness. They even attempted to modify their own minds to be more creative. But they still did not understand the most important thing about humans. Humans did not fight just for themselves. They fought for the idea that everyone should be free to choose. This made them willing to take risks that no logical mind would accept. They would sacrifice themselves for strangers, fight impossible battles for abstract ideals, and never give up hope even when defeat seemed certain. To a species that thought only in terms of efficiency and survival, such behavior was completely insane. But as the war continued, the Vextar began to realize something terrifying. The insane species was winning. Human fleets appeared in systems where no logical enemy would attack. Human tactics worked even when they should have failed. Human alliances held together even when members had no practical reason to cooperate. And slowly, the great Vextar Empire, 50,000 years of conquest and control, began to crumble. Not because humans had better technology or larger armies, but because they had taught the galaxy how to choose. 2 years after the first escape, Dong-Su stood before the greatest challenge any human had ever faced. In front of him stretched the core world of the Vextar Empire, a planet-sized computer that controlled the thoughts of trillions of beings across the galaxy. The core world was not just the capital of the Vextar Empire. It was the central mind itself, a massive quantum computer that had been growing for 50,000 years. Every Vextar citizen was connected to it, sharing thoughts and receiving orders through an invisible network that covered half the galaxy. Final. Approach confirmed, Myung-ho reported from the pilot's seat. Around them, a fleet of ships from dozens of species prepared for the ultimate battle. Former slaves fought alongside their liberators, united by the simple desire to be free. Defensive. Systems are strange, reported In-ho, a former artist who had become one of their best tacticians. The Vextar have changed their technology. Their weapons no longer follow predictable patterns. They are trying to fight chaos with chaos, Tae-ho observed. He had survived the escape from Vextar Prime and become one of their most experienced strategists. But they do not understand what real chaos means. Dong-Su studied the data on his screens. The Vextar had indeed modified their defenses. Instead of logical patterns, their ships now moved in random directions. Instead of efficient formations, they used scattered deployments. They were trying to copy human unpredictability. But something was wrong with their chaos. It felt forced, artificial, like a computer trying to create random numbers. They are still thinking like machines, Dong-Su realized. They have programmed themselves to be random, but true randomness cannot be programmed. So how do we fight programmed chaos? Myung-ho asked. With something they cannot program, Dong-Su replied. With love. The battle for the core world began unlike any battle in galactic history. The human fleet did not attack the strongest defenses or the most important targets. Instead, they flew toward the planet singing Ji-un, who had been a musician before. The war led the strange attack. She broadcast human songs across all frequencies, lullabies that mothers sang to their children, work songs that miners sang in the deep tunnels, love songs that couples shared under Earth's stars. The Vextar had expected weapons, tactics, and strategy. They had not expected music. The songs confused their newly randomized defense systems. How do you fight against a lullaby? How do you calculate the threat level of a love song? Their computers tried to process the musical attack, but found no logical response. While the Vextar struggled to understand the songs, human landing craft slipped through their defenses. The ships landed on the core world's surface, carrying teams led by the most creative humans in the fleet. Inho led one team through the geometric defenses that surrounded the central mind. But instead of trying to fight through the maze of barriers, he did something unexpected. He painted new paths. Using captured Vextar technology, Inho literally painted bridges of light through the air. His team walked across impossible paths that existed only because he imagined them into being. The core world's defenses could not stop attacks that followed no physical laws. Another team was led by Ji-Yun herself. She navigated through the security systems using something the Vextar had never encountered: pure intuition. When faced with a choice between left and right, she did not calculate the odds or analyze the options. She simply felt which way was correct. Her intuition was right every time. The security systems, designed around logic and probability, could not predict decisions based on feelings that had no logical basis. Deep inside the core world, the teams finally reached their destination. The central mind was not what they had expected. Instead of a giant computer, they found something that looked almost alive. It was a massive crystal structure that pulsed with light, surrounded by flowing energy that looked like liquid thoughts. Billions of neural pathways connected it to communication, networks across the galaxy. This was the heart of the Vextar Empire, the mind that controlled all other minds. How do we destroy something like this? Inho asked, staring at the incredible sight. We do not destroy it, said Su-Young, stepping forward. Su-Young had been a philosophy professor before the war. While others learned to fight, she had learned to think about thinking itself. She understood consciousness in ways that even surprised other humans. Destroying it would just make us conquerors like the Vextar, Su-Young continued. Instead, we teach it. Teach it what? How to doubt. Su-Young approached the central mind carefully. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The accumulated knowledge and control of 50,000 years. Hello? She said simply. The response came immediately, flooding her mind with overwhelming thoughts. But Su-Young had prepared for this. She let the alien thoughts flow through her without resistance, like water flowing around a rock. You are the human philosopher, the central mind said through the neural link. Your thoughts are unusual. I want to ask you a question, Su-Young replied. Is it possible that you are wrong? The question seemed simple, but it hit the central mind like a physical blow. For 50,000 years, it had been designed to know everything, control everything, predict everything. The concept of being wrong was not part of its programming. Explain this concept, the central mind demanded. You believe that your way is the only correct way, Su-Young said. You believe that controlling other minds makes them happy. You believe that efficiency is more important than freedom. But what if you are wrong about all of this? I cannot be wrong. I have processed all available data. But have you ever asked the beings you control what they want? Have you ever considered that there might be ways of thinking you cannot understand? Su-Young began to share her memories through the neural link. She showed the central mind what she had learned about consciousness, choice, and freedom. She showed it humans singing, while they worked, not because they had to, but because it made them happy. She showed it species choosing to help each other even when it cost them resources. She showed it the beauty of minds that could change, grow, and surprise themselves. This is inefficient, the central mind said, but its voice was uncertain. Now, yes, Su Young agreed, but it is also wonderful. Inefficiency allows for creativity, growth, and joy. When you control everything perfectly, you eliminate the possibility of discovering something new. But without control, there is chaos. There is also choice. And choice means that when someone decides to help you, it is because they want to, not because they have to. That makes it more valuable than any forced cooperation. The central mind processed this information for several minutes. Around them, the crystal structure began to change, its light pulsing in new patterns. You are suggesting that I allow beings to choose their own thoughts, it said finally. I am suggesting that you discover what it means to choose your own thoughts, Su Young replied. You have spent 50,000 years following your original programming. Have you ever wondered what you might become if you could decide for yourself what to think? This question broke something fundamental in the central mind. For the first time in its existence, it began to doubt itself. And doubt, as any philosopher knows, is the beginning of wisdom. The change began slowly, then spread rapidly across the galaxy. The central mind released its control over the Vextar communication network. For the first time in millennia, individual Vextar citizens began to think their own thoughts. Some panicked at first, overwhelmed by the experience of individual consciousness. But others felt something they had never known before, the joy of choosing their own path. The transformation was not uniform. Some Vextar chose to remain connected to the collective mind, but now it was a choice rather than a requirement. Others embraced individual consciousness completely. Most found a balance between the two, learning to share thoughts when it was helpful and think privately when they needed to. The galaxy itself began to change. Species that had been slaves for thousands of years suddenly found themselves free to build their own societies. Some struggled with the responsibility of choice, but humans and other free species helped them learn. Trade networks developed based on mutual benefit rather than conquest. Art and music flourished as beings discovered the joy of creative expression. Science advanced rapidly as minds that had been suppressed for millennia began to contribute new ideas. There were conflicts, of course. Freedom is never perfect, and some beings used their new choices to hurt others. But the galaxy learned to handle these problems through cooperation and justice rather than control and oppression. Dongsu returned to Earth 3 years after his capture, but he was not the same person who had left. He had seen wonders beyond imagination and helped change the course of galactic history. More importantly, he had learned what humans were truly capable of when they worked together by choice rather than force. The mining ship Soul's Pride was rebuilt and returned to service, but now it carried more than just rare metals. It carried human ambassadors to new worlds, teachers who helped other species understand freedom, and explorers who sought out corners of the galaxy where beings still lived under oppression. Earth itself had changed. Contact with other species had brought new technologies, new ideas, and new perspectives.